So we're back. You and I are back again for another week of Come Together. This is this new thing that we're doing where we look at all of the things that are going on in the world, whether that is pop culture or, things going on in science and research or little murmurings on the internet that are keeping us up at night. And looking at or examining how these things affect sex, dating and relationships, because spoiler alert, it does.
They do.
They do. And this week, you came with a really great idea.
Yes. I just went and saw The Drama, the new A24 film starring Zendaya and Robert Pattinson. We've been seeing lots about the press tour in the lead up, Zendaya's beautiful outfits. And now that the film is out, there is a lot of cultural commentary about this movie.
Yes.
So we're going to be digging into The Drama, and the terrifying question it asks: what do you do when you learn something about your partner and it changes how you see them?
Heavy stuff. Yeah, because I haven't seen it, but I've heard all of the spoilers. But I guess I can't really. Maybe I don't want to speak to the movie itself because I think that would be very ill-informed of me to have an opinion on a movie when I haven't seen it. But I mean, firstly, how did it feel watching the movie?
I knew that there was a reveal of some sort that was
Okay.
going to happen towards the start of the movie because people had been talking about it. I was a few days late to it coming out. And there is one teaser that they had to lead up to the movie in which there's the table of four friends, Robert Pattinson, Zendaya, and their couple friend, and they talk about the worst things they've ever done. So a little overview of the movie. Like I said, it stars Robert Pattinson and Zendaya. It's directed by Kristoffer Borgli.
Sick name.
I'm so sorry for butchering that pronunciation, but the entire plot centers on Emma Harwood, who is Zendaya, and her fiancé, Robert Pattinson, in the high-stakes week leading up to their wedding. There is a provocative reveal at the start of the film and a shocking admission made by the character of Emma that shatters the couple's perfect idyllic week up until their wedding. It's quite a disturbing twist, and that has prompted a lot of discussion online about the specific use of that storyline. But we feel like the real story here that we can comment on is the relational fallout because of this reveal. How a single piece of information can instantly change the way you perceive a person that you love the most. Which is very interesting and juicy.
It is. And it's, I think, again, maybe not speaking about the topic itself, because I do know the topic. I've seen the spoiler, or I've heard the spoiler. But that is, of course, a thing, and I think people are really talking about that. But I think the really interesting thing for me, and maybe this is my bias because I geek out on relationships and sex and how we see ourselves and how we see our partners, is that actually it's really common to learn something about a partner and it radically shifts how you see them, and then it shifts how you see yourself as well. Can I stay in relationship with this person now that I have this information about them? And it happens all the time. This might be a huge statement, but I can almost predict that it's probably happened to every single person. Maybe not as extreme as this, but
Should we tell them a spoiler?
Yeah, okay. Do a spoiler, but the spoiler's coming.
So here's a spoiler. If you don't want to hear it, go forward to this time. But essentially, Zendaya sits down at this table and reveals that when she was 15 years old, she had planned and was ready to execute a school shooting. So that is what is revealed, and it kind of destabilizes everything we know about her character, their relationship, the friendship surrounding it, and the drama that ensues. So obviously that is a really, really extreme example of new information.
Yeah, that is incredibly extreme, and maybe we'll talk about the maybe less extreme but also still intense things. But I think the really important context here is that in Australia, we can feel a little bit far away from this, but yeah, it's obviously a very personal, and lots of people in America are affected by school shootings.
100%.
And so the trauma of that these reactions that people are having to this film, which is it should come with a trigger warning, or we should know that this twist is about to happen, because it is really traumatizing and a very real threat at the moment for them. Like, it's pretty scary to live in
Yeah.
America at the moment.
But essentially that reveal comes, the spoilers are over now.
Okay.
Essentially the big
Great.
reveal comes within like the first 10 minutes of the film. And the rest of the film is exploring that idea of that essentially in all relationships you come to a point where you get new information that has to kind of come together with your previous perception of your partner and decide what you were going to do with that information and how you were going to let it inform or change your relationship.
Yeah, and I can imagine there are some interesting moments, and I'm just like predicting the movie, but I'm noticing what I see in session. There are some interesting moments when someone can see that their partner is seeing them differently, and they look at the way their partner's looking at them, and like the shame of that as well.
Yes, there is quite a bit
Okay.
of that in the film.
Okay, I need to see
A
this.
lot of like defensive, are you thinking about this right now?
Yeah.
Energy. Like I really can't wait for you to see it and actually hear your full opinions on it. One of the big things that comes up in the film sense is that because there's a wedding coming in a week, this reveal seems to come like far too late in the relationship. Something you maybe would have wanted to have known earlier, if at all. And the fact that there's like a looming forever at the end of this period after finding out makes it feel much more like, can I marry this person? Like, I need to figure this out now.
I think the timing is interesting though, and it's also not uncommon. Like, I think that a lot of the time people do leave it till the last moment, and they might also be thinking about it and stressing about it. And, you know, whether it was intentional or not, it's like, well, I've kind of got to tell you this now, because if I don't tell you, then what does that mean? And like, I see it in session. Sometimes people will bring up like the most intense thing when we've got 5 minutes to go, and they just sort of drop this kind of bomb, and then we have to sort of wrap it up. It's like, the awareness of time, and I've been holding this for so long, and I need to get it off my chest, and it's a week before our wedding, and so I'm just gonna, put it out there. I guess there is an argument for why people might do that. Is it like a test? Like, will you still love me if you knew this about me? Is it, I feel like I should say this now because we're about to do something really serious, and at least you can still get out, or I can still get out? Or is it like more of an unconscious thing? Like, I'm not thinking it was such a big deal because it never really happened, and there was no harm that was caused other than to herself, obviously. But the timing is very interesting.
Why do you think finding out something late feels so much feels so much worse than maybe finding out earlier into the relationship?
Yeah, I think often people will say, I wish I knew this so that I could have made an informed decision, that this is really shattering, and if I had known this, I would have had more agency or choice or control to be able to make a decision around what I wanted in this. And the fact that you haven't given me that opportunity, or you knew that I would feel uncomfortable about this, means that I wasn't given that time or that opportunity to like come to terms with it. I think there's also this sense of, well, we're leading up to our wedding and there's all of these people who are attending, and I feel the pressure to play nice and to make it look good and to be this perfect couple, and like, you've done this to me now, like, you've put me in this awkward position where I have to pretend. And so how could you, or how dare you do that when I feel like I'm backed into a corner and I don't have choice anymore?
Well, something I saw in the film and that I've seen in just relationships of those around me is this idea of like the sunk cost fallacy.
I don't know this. What is it?
In essence, I should get a proper definition, but it's like you either spent X amount of money or X amount of time with something that to back out now or break up now will essentially be a waste. So in the film, there's like a moment where Robert Pattinson talks about how expensive the wedding is.
Okay.
Or where people be like, well, we've been dating for like, 8 years
Yeah.
now. That's a long time. And using that as a way to inform the choices that you make.
Yeah, because, well, even in all of those examples, a relationship is an investment. I have invested all of this stuff, this money, this time, this energy, these like fruitful parts of my youth and my life. And because it's an investment, it would be a waste to withdraw now.
Exactly. There's something that I keep seeing popping up on Reddit and TikTok and people sharing stories, particularly women in the United States, where they'll be doing first dates or maybe seeing someone for like 3 or 4 months, and then they'll slowly come to the realization that their partner has been hiding their political beliefs.
Oh, wow.
Like, example being that comes up a lot in these stories is that, they're a Trump supporter. And the people that they're dating have been like very open, liberal women or partners. And the through line through a lot of these stories is that the information was intentionally withheld because they hoped that the partner would like them enough to see past it by the time they found out. Which I think also kind of plays into this idea of like learning or withholding information in relationships and how that can impact and what it means.
Yes, because I do like you enough. Like, I like you enough to stay with you for 3 months or however long they were dating in the movie. Like, I like you enough. I love you enough for that. But there is this, like, really, and this politics thing, I think, is so interesting because a lot of people are, they're really staunch on it. It's vital for them to date someone with shared political values because it's completely tied to their sense of safety and feeling seen. And I think it's in the actively hiding, the actively concealing that does feel like a violation, which is, I'm a feminist or, whatever their identity is. And you have intentionally lied or hidden or not offered some really important information that I should know, because you being a Trump supporter is in direct opposition to me being a feminist, and how could I be in relationship with someone like that?
Yeah. And it also like just unpacks ideas about like, can I actually trust this person?
Yes.
What else are they hiding?
Yes.
Is there something else that's going to come out? And then you can kind of end up in this cycle of what does it all mean?
Yeah. A big thing that I notice in session is when a fantasy is concealed or not shared and then shared, and how that can be really disruptive. I personally and professionally believe that we don't need to share our fantasies with anyone. Like, our fantasies can live really happily and healthily in our mind, and no one is owed the things that we think about when we're having sex or masturbating or where our mind wanders to. But there are moments where couples really want to. It's like hot, it's fun, it's connecting, it's important, it's educational. They want to share their fantasies. And again, like, I think that can be really great so long as no one's pressured into it. But I have many, many cases of people sharing a fantasy thinking, oh, this is going to be connecting, or I really want you to know this part of me. And the partner has been confronted, disgusted, felt lonely, felt not good enough, unworthy, because of where their partner's mind is wandering. And it's such a complex and complicated thing because a fantasy, like, you're not doing anything wrong. It's not cheating. But it can feel like a betrayal. It can feel like a betrayal when you're like, oh, you were thinking about someone or something else whilst we were having sex. But also, it might feel confronting if their fantasy is challenging to their partner for a bunch of different reasons. And so, yeah, I see a lot in terms of sex and relationships, how finding out information about someone. But it could also be like, what they're into and what they do want to do during sex and what they don't want to do, the kinds of sex they want to have with their partner or they've had in the past, how that can, really create a rupture. in the way that they see themselves.
If someone's coming to you for advice, how would you tell the difference between something that is a deal breaker and something that may just need a bit of time to process?
Yeah, and so a deal breaker for me is really different to a deal breaker for the people I'm working with. I think often a really important thing we need to do is we need to pause. When there's been a big rupture, we need to pause and slow things down a bit. People can get into an urgency, like we've got to fix this, we've got to make this better. Often the first thing we need to do is take a beat, create safety for themselves or the relationship, and safety might be having a bit of space. That's not a breakup, but it might just be I need to take care of myself, or we need to do these things, and so we need to come back to feeling regulated before we can get to any conflict resolution process. Then we would go through the processes. We would take time to understand, both people's perspectives and opinion and how they're feeling and their processes and how that's been informed by their past stuff. It's not just their partner's fault for making them feel this way. How they both want to move forward with this, like what's the responsibility for both of them to move forward? And are they willing to do that? Because I think it's a deal breaker if they're not willing to do anything. They're just expecting their partner to fix it. That is impossible. It's probably also a deal breaker if they can't access empathy for their partner, if they can't feel for them anymore. If I don't see empathy or a willingness to change or to try, then yeah, that would be a good moment to get a sense of how you will move forward.
Something that came up in my research for putting this together is the shattered mirror theory.
What is this?
So
You're coming with everything.
The idea is like, can a relationship actually get stronger after a moment like this? Or is the crack always there sort of vibes? What do you think? Is there an essence of like permanent damage that can be pushed past?
Again, like I think this is completely dependent on the individual and the context, because many times people will say we went through the most fucked thing together and we are closer because of it. Like if anyone's ever listened to Esther Perel's book or podcast, so many people there's been a betrayal or infidelity or cheating, so many people will say that was really awful and we feel closer because of it and more connected, and we healed things and we worked on things. But sometimes the crack is too big and it is important for them to break up. And breakups aren't, I think, so often we see breakups as a failure. You didn't try enough. You didn't do everything you could. Sometimes a breakup is a successful ending, and it's an important ending.
Okay. So say somebody listening has just found out something pretty crazy and shocking about their partner. What would you say is the first thing they should not do?
Oh, don't post about it on social media. The world does not need to know straight away. Maybe you can think about it if you do need to do it. I have a strong pull to be like, you probably need to be around people who you trust. And so that might be your partner. Like it might be shattering and it might be a betrayal, but if you trust them and you feel safe and you can talk about it, it might be them. But it might be others. It might be your friends or a family member or a therapist. A lot of people will isolate and they will take the burden of responsibility. They've got to fix and they've got to come up with the solution. But that feels very lonely. And a lot of people will say, you've done this to me and now I have to hold this on my own. And that's so awful. You don't have to do it on your own, and actually it's really important for you to receive support. So don't post on social media and try not to speak to people who you don't think can like really hold you and the complexity of what you're going through. There will be people who really have like a binary, like dump them or you got to work through it. We kind of need people who can step away from the solutions and stay with the complexities, because you will feel complex. It will not feel clear, like, depends on what it is, but it will not, is likely to not feel clear, I've got to do this thing. Don't ignore it. Like, there could be a tendency to, like, avoid or tap out or numb out. You can have a bit of space and distance from it, but if you are betrayed and if you feel shattered, ignoring it is not going to support you in processing it. So there's a difference between, I need a bit of space from this to, like, get my thoughts together, and I'm just going to push it down and pretend it never happened, because you and your partner will know it's happened. What do you think?
I don't know about the not, but I feel like the first thing you should do is, like, just take a step back, breathe,
That's a good one.
and kind of just, like, try and focus on how you're feeling. And I mean, I've learned lots from working at Normal, specifically in filming and making content with you. But being able to kind of, like, sit within your body and notice how you're feeling, where you're feeling it, and kind of naming those things first, to kind of, like, bring you down a little bit. Because I'm assuming there's just going to be a lot of shock, and it might be, dependent on the person, it's like you might need to take yourself away from your partner, or you might need to, like, sit down and ask a million questions, get some clarity. Like, try and figure out, like, how am I feeling, and then what do I need to, like, move forward, not necessarily, like, move past what's currently happening, but, like, to take the next step and get out of the shock of it all.
That's such a good point, because you can get really, like, it probably won't make sense, and you can get really in your head, like, trying to make sense of it, but it may be a thing that really does not make sense to you. And so, yeah, noticing and feeling what's going on, and that's valid and real because it's here, is really important.
I have an interesting question. From the film, it's really clear that Zendaya's character planned to never tell anyone ever about what she had planned. At what point does withholding something in a relationship become like a breach of trust versus being just, like, a right to personal privacy?
Wow, that's such a big one. And I mean, I guess it really depends on, like, what it is in the relational agreement. So a breach of trust, if it is cheating or infidelity, and you are sort of thinking, well, it's my thing that I'm dealing with and I don't want them to know it. That is a breach of trust, because you've broken the agreement, and that's probably really important information for them. And also this thing that you're holding on to, a lot of people who have cheated or betrayed their partner, it really eats at them. But we are all deserving of having thoughts, insecurities, things that maybe we've done, things that we fantasize about, and not having to, like, share that with people. I think if it's, like, intentionally causing harm and doing that, wanting to do that, or anything, like, planning to do anything illegal, or doing anything illegal, like, that is probably a breach of trust, because that puts them in danger. But it is this sort of, this balance between, you know, the really dangerous, harmful, illegal, causing pain to others, and I've had a thought, or I'm doing this thing, or there's this part of myself that I'm insecure about. I don't really like it about myself, or I'm coming to terms with it, and I don't want to share that with other people. That's just so not a. I mean, it's not a black and white answer. There is,
None of it is really.
Yeah. What do you think?
Um, it's so silly to be like, it depends on what it is. I think we all have our own standards of like, if this was me, I would tell or I wouldn't tell in specific circumstances. But if you've been engaged in a relationship for a decent amount of time, you are always learning new things about your partner and yourself, and as people you grow and evolve. So you'll never like 100% fully always know who exactly your partner is in a specific moment. I don't think that's a bad thing. It sounds kind of crazy, like you don't know your partner.
Yeah.
But that's kind of part of the agreement in being in a relationship, is that you grow and you change and you learn. And hopefully we aren't hiding crazy secrets from each other.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's important to not know our part. Like, I think it's important for us to always be learning about our partner. Let's move like the really intense secret keeping. But like, it's kind of special to be able to meet this person and learn about them again and again and again. And I think a lot of the times couples get really, they can feel stuck when they think that their partner knows everything about them and their partner isn't like seeing them in a new light. We all change, and some people change a lot in lots of different relationships, and some people change in these relationships that they've been with for years and decades. Of course, like, we're always changing, so it's going to happen. And so being able to learn new things about your partner, and then also if the change is too big, like, what do you want to need in that? Where's your agency? If they are so different from the person that you loved or want to love or want to maintain a relationship with, that's really challenging, but it also happens a lot.
Well, you see a lot in like films and stories and TV shows, this idea of like partners being in love with who their partner was and not who they've become, and that being a big tension point. I think the biggest thing for like all of this, to kind of like wrap it up, is communication and intimacy in your communication, and feeling comfortable asking difficult questions and sharing difficult things is the best way to kind of foster a healthy relationship.
Yeah, totally. And when there is a rupture, finding ways that you're going to move through it either together or solo, because every relationship will have a rupture and will have moments of like, what the fuck is happening and how do we get through this? But there is a lot that you can do if you do want to move through it together.
Having that foundation of good communication is
It's
really
pretty
important to like everything,
Yeah.
every
Yes.
facet of a relationship.
Yeah.
Like whether it's as simple as like, you know, it's time to pick what we want for dinner.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mind, what do you want?
Yeah.
To the really difficult stuff. But I think this is a really good time to mention, let's like, talking about communication as intimacy. We do have a tool that's really good for helping build communication, especially when it comes to relationships, dating, desire, sex. The Sync Set.
Yes.
Tell us about the Sync Set.
So the Sync Set is a bunch of questions that I would often share with my clients for their at-home practices. And then I was like, wait a minute, let's make this a card game. So it's, I think, around over 50 questions on topics of sex, dating, relationships, pleasure, what you're wanting for yourself, what you're wanting in your relational dynamic. And it was also designed because I think that a lot of the time people don't know how to talk about sex because they don't have the right questions to lead them in. And we have got amazing reviews on this as a tool to support people in opening up. And it kind of takes the pressure off needing to ask the right thing in the right way because we've done it for you. So yeah, highly recommend it.
Yeah. And when you have like moments in your relationships where you might have those ruptures or little shifts, it's not about having the perfect response straight away or knowing exactly what to say. It's more about creating the space where you can help understand each other honestly and safely,
Totally.
which the sync set really helps in establishing.
It'll help you come together.
So if you would like to get the sync set or anything else from the normal website, like a toy to go along with the sync set, we have a special code this week, the drama. Use the drama at checkout for 30% off your orders, excluding bundles and gift cards. Only available for the first 50 people who use it.
Nice.
So get in quick. And that's it for us today. We've dealt with a little bit of drama. Georgia will eventually see the movie.
I'm going to
sure.
see it this weekend. I
And
think I've got to.
I think, and then maybe we can do a little addendum or a little
Yeah.
update. To,
Yeah, great.
Once
What
you
I
have
think-
the full context, maybe a
Yes.
quick little moment.
Yeah, I'll do a voice note or
Yeah.
something.
So we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.